We might as well be a fucking dictatorship. It is a betrayal of people, working class people, all people who have paid into the system all of their fucking lives and they're now at their most vulnerable. You MPs know it's wrong. You know we know it's wrong. Anyone who votes for this or abstains is a fucking coward, and that will be your lasting legacy among the voters.
Now, so many of us are just fed up. We are completely fed up after just weeks with what we see as a government that is not only failing in its promises, not only not there for us, but also acting in such an authoritarian manner. And thank God for Jim Davidson, my friend, the politically active comedian who I think is becoming a spokesperson for the silent majority. He's another one who isn't in the mainstream media. He has his own platform, Ustream. And he has accused Two Tier Keir Starmer of running a dictatorship. Watch.
Well, first of all, I'm a pensioner, and I think I got 200 quid once for fuel. I don't know if I got any after that, but I didn't need it. So why send it to me? I'm probably thinking that if they do a means test, which they've got to do now, because they said the poorest pensioners can have it, but the rich ones can't, it's going to cost them more to do the means test. Oh, we'll have to have an inquiry and a judge comes in. And parties, right, MPs from all parties are getting the ump. But instead of voting against this silly bill, 50 Labour MPs are apparently going to abstain. What? They're too scared to say, oh, sorry, we don't agree. We think this is bollocks. No. You know why? They've been threatened they'll have the whip removed. No, this is supposed to be a democracy, and I think the whip is your right to vote, so you can't vote. So you might as well just go to the CAF and still get your money. Right, and they don't really care. The Labour Party don't care about taking the whip away from 50 people because they've got such a big majority. So surely we should be removing this so-called whip if an MP has committed a serious disciplinary issue, shouldn't we? Or just use that as an everyday method of stopping unease amongst the ranks. It's okay, unless you vote for us, you're going to have your whip removed. Don't you worry about that. It's piss-potical, isn't it? We might as well be a fucking dictatorship. It is a betrayal of people, working class people, all people who have paid into the system all of their fucking lives and they're now at their most vulnerable. You MPs know it's wrong. You know we know it's wrong. Anyone who votes for this or abstains is a fucking coward, and that will be your lasting legacy among the voters. Well, first of all...
And it will be, actually, because these were MPs that were literally holding up signs when they were going around canvassing, saying that they would not withdraw the winter fuel allowance for pensioners. But Chris Davies, are we now living in Starmer's dictatorship? Is Jim Davidson right?
He's 100% right. No question about it. Starmer is has done what Harris is attempting to do in the US, which is to appear centrist, knowing that a radical left agenda was on the way thereafter. And it's always been the case, Dan, that when the right is in office, the left takes over, the left is in power. And what the left is most focused on now is retaining control, is retaining power. And the only way they know how to do it is through authoritarian and indeed totalitarian means. So Jim's got it on the money. People may find his vernacular and his slightly blue language offensive. I don't. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. He says what he sees. And that's what you have to admire about Jim. And we need more people like him to stand up. You know, we can have the discussion about Calvin going off to the US and everything else and saying we need more freedom fighters.
Father Calvin Robinson.
Yeah, absolutely. To stand up. And he's right. We need more people. We need brave people. And independent media, as you highlighted earlier on, is the platform to do it on. Don't try and do it on the mainstream media because you'll last about 15 seconds.
Well, indeed, because Charlie Sansom, I used to have Jim Davidson on with me every single week on my GB News show. It was one of the most popular and top-rated segments, both on TV and online. And since I've left, he has been axed because they're too scared that he speaks the truth. And sometimes it's an unpalatable truth.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, what he says in those videos you just showed us is absolutely right. The government have found another 600 billion, I believe it is, for Ukraine.
Six
Yeah,
hundred
they
million, 600 million, but obviously it adds
My
to the
apologies.
billions that have already been spent.
Yeah. So 600 million sounds a bit more right. I knew I misspoke there. So they've given 600 million to a war that we've got no role in, a war that I think we should play no part in whatsoever, so that pensioners can freeze to death, and all the while they're releasing
Yep.
criminals onto the streets
Yeah.
and
And
replacing
by the
them
way,
with
spending
mean posters.
£9 billion to give train drivers paid £70,000 a year a pay rise, and we know that's because they're completely in cahoots with the unions. And actually, what about how much money we're spending on migrants too? Because I agree with you, Charlie. I spoke about it on the show yesterday. Of course, we cannot keep writing this blank check for Ukraine, but we cannot keep writing a blank check for migrants either. And who has been prepared to speak out on that? You guessed it, Jim Davidson.
There's a Labour MP called Lucy Powell. She claims that the economy would have crashed if they hadn't scrapped the winter fuel allowance. Bollocks. What is that about? How much money are we giving in overseas aid? How much money are we spending on illegal immigrants in this country? And she's actually saying that scrapping the fuel allowance has saved the economy, right? 11.6 billion on overseas climate aid, right? So we can't light a fire here because we're adding to the green stuff that's going on. But in India, where they burn 2 million hectares a day and cause global warming, no, it's a fucking joke. These are mental people. These are little. How long are we going to put up with this? They spent 8 million a day on migrants' hotels, right? 8 million a day. Listen to this. Did you see that the other day? There was one of them committee rooms. I'd quite like that. So they get the old civil servants there, the lefty civil servants, and the MPs give them a grilling. And this geezer, this was to do with migrants. They have got 5,000 beds on standby for migrants. And do you know where these beds are? In hotels. They're being paid for. 5,000 beds. I wonder if they do it through...
5,000, Charlie. And that's not to mention, by the way, Operation Scatter, which is going on, which the government doesn't want you to talk about, which will see illegal migrants coming to a town, a community near you.
I apologise. There was a distraction there on the screen. The fact that we're paying for these people to come over is a disgrace. If you went homeless tomorrow, you wouldn't be given anything. As a man in particular, if I went homeless tomorrow as a single man, I wouldn't get a hotel room, I wouldn't get money, I would just be told to sort it out. I might be given access to a hostel if I'm lucky. So you see people making jokes online all the time. If you want your mortgage paid for, you want to, start again and get a free house and a free car, go to France, come back on a rubber dinghy, throw the passport in the ocean, and pretend you don't speak the language, and you'll have your life sorted out for you. That is supposed to be a joke, but that's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And people are sick and tired of paying for that reality. I can't stand it. I think it's an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace.
Chris, where do you stand on this one? But first, guys, this is the best time of year, and girls too. Football is back. We're talking Premier League in the UK and in the US. It's NFL Sundays and college football Saturdays. With that comes the glorious grind of fantasy football lineups, which is where your inner manager comes alive, setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the chat group. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left off the bench. Because let's be honest, no one wants to fumble their grooming routine, and that's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to take care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0, this is the lineup that will keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. It will help you feel clean, confident, and ready to dominate your fantasy league. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Groin and Body Hair Trimmer is the franchise player of your grooming roster. With precise trimming capabilities, it's reliable, efficient, and gets the job done without fumbling. Whether it's for date night, a weekend tailgate, or just everyday grooming, this is the tool you want on your squad. No one wants a surprise ear or nose hair making a guest appearance on game day. The Weed Whacker 2.0 handles those details like a pro, keeping you neat and ready to go. No missed tackles in your grooming gang. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra doesn't stop at grooming essentials. It also comes today with 2 free gifts: the Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 Toiletry Bag. Premium gear to ensure you're always ready for action, whether at home or on the road. So join the over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. Use the code Outspoken today at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season. So let me repeat, www.manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping with the code Outspoken. Stay on top of your grooming gang and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
Well, that 22 billion pound, 22 billion, it is 22 billion pound.
Yeah, 22 billion so-called black hole.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable that we've got this 22 billion pound black hole, but we can find 600 million down the back of the sofa to give to Zelensky, and it absolutely won't be siphoned off, and it absolutely won't be disappearing into offshore bank accounts.
Oh no, of course
nothing
not.
like that's going to happen. Of course not. It's all going to go to the front line. I think at this stage you need Andrew Lawrence, not Chris Davies. He'd do this much better than I do. But no, it's absurd, Dan. But all of these things are designed to bait and switch. They are all designed to distract us from the real issues that are coming around the corner, because this is just the beginning. And when you talk about Operation Scatter, we're talking about Angela Rayner, who is very quiet at the moment, Dan. I don't know if you've noticed. She's not.
Apart from when she's in Ibiza.
She was until that moment there, yeah.
She's still hungover, Chris.
Well, she's entitled to it, Charlie, because she works very, very hard.
Oh, yeah, but Boris Johnson wasn't, according to Angela Rayner.
Absolutely not. Well, it's one rule for them and one rule for us. Of course.
I wanted to also show you another issue that Jim Davidson has raised. He thinks there's something going on when it comes to the boats crossing the channel. Something is up. Something isn't right, Jim Davidson says. Watch this.
Who are getting them? And how are they getting £1,000? Tell me how some little fucker from Eritrea, poor bastard, right, walked across miles and miles and miles of safe countries to get to our country, but they got to cross the channel in a boat first and give someone £1,000. So all these poor bastards who have got nothing have all got £1,000 in cash in their pocket. Why isn't more of them being beaten up and robbed? What is going on? Something is not fucking right here, and I don't know what it is. The amount of illegal immigrants risking their lives crossing the channel to get to the UK. Why is that? Because we are a soft touch. What is it? We've got 1.6 million immigrants on the dole here, signing on benefits. So how's that going, Prime Minister? How's the gang smashing? At record numbers. Record numbers. Right? And now these people have been killed and picked up by the French and dumped over here, of course. And why is our government doing fuck all to sort it out? We don't want these people to die in the channel. We don't want them to come. Who would...
So something isn't right here, Jim Davidson says. Charlie Sansom, what do you make of that?
I think he's absolutely spot on. I mean, I've always said this for years. It's an absolute fiddle that you've got people coming across Europe, going across all these safe countries, and then having money to buy their access to the UK for a smuggling group. And, you know, for a long period of time, I wasn't even convinced they were paying smugglers. I thought they've just taken their chances and maybe, you know, forming a collective in Calais and making their own way over. But, you know, Jim makes a very good point there. How do they have the money for this? You know, we're supposed to believe, if you listen to anything on the left of politics, that these people are running away from a war zone. They're in a disaster zone. They need our help. They don't need our help. They're taking the piss.
Chris Davies, something isn't right. with this
something
criminal
is-
activity across the channel, according to Jim Davidson?
Well, something's definitely not right, Dan. It stinks. But don't worry, because Comrade Keir is smashing the gangs,
Oh, yeah.
and it must be true because he said so.
You're right.
And look, Dan, we all know that when it comes down to it, in the same way as the champagne corks were popping outside Wandsworth Prison the other day, we've now got lifelong Labour voters being released onto the streets to commit more serious and violent crime. People quaking at the prospect of, being battered and abused again in the future by people that should have been spending more years in prison. We've got people arriving by the bucket load on the southern coast. How many of them will be deported? A fraction. What will the rest vote when they're given the opportunity for citizenship? They'll vote Labour. This is a very cynical ploy to ensure perpetual power for the left in this country. Nothing more, nothing less.
Indeed. Chris Davies, the owner of True Conservative Media, Charlie Sansom, host of X Uncensored, which I will be taking part in. So, Charlie, 7 o'clock UK time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern, and that is on Sunday, right?
I'm looking forward to it. I think the reason why I find you interesting is that people know who you are, but they don't know who you are. And I want to kind of dig a little bit. And
so you're going to probe me.
Make Dan
I'm
Wootton
terrified. I'm really looking forward to it. So yes, Charlie, what's your X handle so that people can follow if they want to watch with us or listen with us on Sunday? Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.